Well, a maintenance worker who sabotaged one of Eskom's units at the Camden power station has been arrested by law enforcement agencies. The offender purposefully removed the bearing oil drain plug from the bearing, causing the oil burners to trip repeatedly. Now, this week, the High Court in Pretoria ruled that Eskom needs to expedite new maintenance tender that must be finished within 6 months. To discuss this and the latest developments at Eskom, I'm joined by energy analyst and director at the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at the University of Stellenbosch, Professor Sampson Mamphweli. Prof, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us this morning. I'd like to start our conversation with this warning that was issued by Eskom earlier this week, warning of rolling blackouts going into the festive season, of protracted load shedding for about 6 to 12 months or so. Talk to us about that, because festivities aside, you know, the festive season is also peak period for businesses, and you know, we're likely to see them suffer as well during this time.
Morning to you and the viewers. We expected that load shedding will continue into the festive season, and beyond that, we expected it to kind of worsen before it becomes better, and then less and less towards 12 to 18 months. What's happening now is we've got challenges with the breakdowns, and Eskom at the same time is ramping up maintenance to ensure that the fleet that's giving problems, the coal fleet that has been giving us problems, is properly maintained and properly revitalized, so that some of the challenges can then disappear in the next few months. That coupled with the breakdowns that are not planned results in load shedding. In the past, Eskom used to take down between 4,000 and 5,000 megawatts as per the requirement from NERSA for maintenance, and now they are taking down about 7,000 to 8,000 megawatts, which makes life quite difficult for Eskom when the breakdowns come into effect as well.
I mean, the challenges that you just highlighted for us, as we know, Prof, are also compounded by issues around, you know, cash flow issues, the fact that there isn't enough resources for Eskom, for instance, to continue purchasing much needed diesel to help keep the lights on. Talk to us about that, you know, because this 6 to 12 month period, I think the concern is that we may even see that extended perhaps to even 18 or even 24 months, given, you know, the depths of the crises at the power utility.
Yeah, so the cash issue is a big issue, and it goes back into the fact that even the tariffs, the Eskom tariffs, are not cost reflective. So basically, Eskom is not selling the electricity to the consumers using the prices that they basically at the cost of generation, and then they are not even making enough profit. In the past financial year, when they made a profit of about 8 billion rand, that profit was largely because of cutting costs and not necessarily because they made profit. So that is a problem. Revenue collection is also a challenge, especially when it comes to municipalities. Municipalities are owing Eskom more than 50 billion rands. That's quite a lot of money that needs to come from somewhere. If that money was to be collected by Eskom, or if municipalities were to pay that money, it would go a very long way in solving some of the challenges in terms of the Eskom cash flow and the balance sheet. So that is a big problem, and Eskom has been surviving, you know, in terms of servicing their debt that they have more than 400 billion rands using state resources, fund money from national treasury. Basically, that's what has been happening. And now the problems of load shedding led to the breakdowns led to Eskom using a lot of money, about 11 billion rands, in purchasing diesel. And now they are quickly running out of cash. Basically, the other day I was listening to the COO saying we don't have money anymore. So government needs to come on board, in my view, because municipalities are partly responsible for the challenges. They need to inject some money into Eskom, also that Eskom can then be able to maintain these systems and also be able to keep the lights on. They should be able to get some reserves in terms of the diesel and the pump storage and all the other reserves that are needed to get us through the festive season.
I want to tackle the issue of sabotage. It came up, of course, during Eskom's briefing on the state of its systems. And we've already noted, at least in the introduction, the arrest of the Eskom employee, maintenance worker, who confessed to having been part of plans to sabotage the Camden power station, or at least a unit at that power station. How should Eskom be handling these issues around sabotage? Because we're talking about individuals who form part of the rank and file at the power utility, deliberately damaging infrastructure that is needed to keep the lights on. How should Eskom be tackling that particular issue?
So you will recall that there was a time that when the president was visiting Eskom power stations, he took along the Minister of Police, and that I think was a good move. They have Eskom people, some of the what we could call rotten apples within Eskom, who have been part of the old system that has been siphoning a lot of money from Eskom through these maintenance contracts. They've developed some sophisticated kind of way of operating. In some cases, it's the maintenance contractors themselves working with Eskom employees. In some cases, it's individuals within those maintenance contractors who then get paid small amount of monies to sabotage Eskom. The other time I indicated when we had a lot of trips, and I said these are very unusual trips in my view, and they're becoming a lot more. So there is a need for state security to get in there and try and understand what is happening at Eskom. So there's a need for forensic investigations, thorough investigations that have got to deal with Eskom employees, investigating each and every trip and each and every breakdown to ensure that we satisfied that it's something that happened naturally. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that we have when it comes to some of these breakdowns. Most of them are human-made. And Eskom has mentioned this several times. There was a time that the CEO himself came on TV and he said that there's quite a lot of sabotage that's taking place. And the sooner they arrest these people and arrest their principals and send them to jail for a long time, the better.
There's a lot of calls, for an engineer to be at the helm of Eskom, and not necessarily a corporate man or a businessman, but an engineer. What do you make of those particular calls? Do you think this is, an attempt at, trying to plaster on a Band-Aid onto a gaping wound, essentially, and really people just looking for a quick fix as opposed to dealing with the real issues plaguing Eskom? I suppose the idea is that if there's an engineer at the helm, then these issues around sabotage wouldn't necessarily be present. It seems as though they are enabled because they're exploiting an individual who doesn't understand how technically Eskom should operate.
Yeah, I must say those calls cannot be substantiated. Part of the problems that we had at Eskom has been the change in management. Whenever you change management, you destabilize the utility. We've had, I think, about 14 CEOs, Eskom CEOs since 1995 or so. And that has been part of the problem. Out of those 14 CEOs, some of them were engineers, some of them were not engineers. We've had load shedding started in 2008, and the coal fleet has been degenerating. The energy availability factor has been collapsing since 2011. In 2010, it was above 85%. And from 2011 onwards, it started collapsing until around 2016, 2017, and 2018, somewhere there. And that has got absolutely nothing to do with the individual at the helm. It improved a little bit when there was the implementation of what we called the yellow card system by one of the CEOs. I'm not going to go into names. And that partly got us where we are today, because what happened was the power station managers were given yellow cards whenever there's a breakdown, and that led to them doing makeshift maintenance work and things like that. It's a whole lot of problems that came with that, and some of them were fired, and some of them won court cases, and because they were irregularly fired and all those kind of things. Now, coming back to the actual issue of around the CEO. So the CEO, yes, takes responsibility holistically, but if you look at the way Eskom operates, the power station managers work with the original equipment manufacturers to develop maintenance plans for each power station, because each and every component has got its own lifespan and its own maintenance regime. So the power station managers develop that. It goes to the COO. They discuss that with the chief operating officer, and then it finally become a part of the general maintenance plan that the CEO then signs off. So if you look at things, acts of sabotage and things like that, those acts can still happen because they're not happening at senior management level. They're happening at the power stations. Even if you have an engineer as an Eskom CEO, those sabotage work can still happen because it's got nothing to do with the person or the CEO at the helm. And we have been saying to people, the overall management of Eskom is basically overseeing a business unit. Anybody can do it. It does not require an engineer to do it. The power station managers are supposed to be engineers, not necessarily the CEO. There is very little for the CEO to understand in terms of the technical side of things when he makes decisions, because the people who really understand the technical side of things, who will work on the technical side of things and bring those to his attention, are the people who are running the power stations, who are the power station managers that must be well-qualified engineers registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa as professional engineers. So I would say firing the CEO is just going to add on to the number of CEOs that Eskom has had and has fired. I don't think it's going to work at the moment. We have the plan, which is now the president's plan. There is also a new board that needs to look at that plan and engage the CEO and his team and look at how best can this plan be implemented going forward. We don't need that uncertainty at Eskom at this point in time. I understand and know that the current CEO is under severe pressure because some of the people that are calling for his axing, we understand may have been involved in some of the acts of sabotage, and he may battle up and end up resigning. That will be unfortunate in my view. The CEO needs to stay there, right, because for the next 6 to 12 months.
Right. Well, Prof, thank you so much for coming on to our program this morning and sharing your insights with us. That's analyst and director at the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at the University of Stellenbosch, Professor Sampson Mamphweli.